I really care about the sport and other riders, whether they're on my team or whoever going forward. I don't want them getting ripped off and getting them bent over. So honestly, it's more for them. Like I'm doing okay. And like I say, I'm not racing for much longer, but we have a great sport here, an amazing thing that we're lucky we get to do. And I just want it to be fair and good going forward, you know?
How do you manage owning the team, being a rider? There's obviously a salary component. You need to build profit in to protect the business model if there's a tough year. But then you're having a conversation with Eddie Masters. I don't want the figures. How do you then say, oh, I want him to get paid fair, but then that's less for the it's like, how do you juggle that?
It's hard because, especially if I'm like, you guys need to do more or you've been lazy. Some days I think about what Eddie's getting paid and I'm like, mate, I need a pay rise. I'm doing too much work compared to you for how, and Eddie works hard. But he'll be like, oh, I need to sell this bike at the end of the season. I'm like, dude, I've just sold this bike for you because he leaves them here. And I'm hustling, I'm doing this. I'm on the phone till midnight. I'm like, you need to do some more work. But most of the time, dude, if they want more money, they deserve it. They've justified it. And I'll fight. Like we went to Morgan with an offer to her last year. I was like, hey, Pivot are going to double your wage. No matter how she did last year, Pivot Cycles were doubling Morgan's wage for 23. They told me that in April and May. They're like, hey, we want Morgan to be more in line with the guys. We really think she's killing it for us. Just so you know, whatever happens this year, she's getting a doubled wage in 23. They were going to put double the budget in for Morgan. And I was like, what a company, dude, for Pivot to just stand up and say that was so cool. I didn't tell her for a while. I was like, fuck, I'm going to tell Morgan. She was like almost crying, I think, so happy. Got to the end of the year. I was like, right, we can give you X number, which was a tiny bit more than what we'd said because she'd done so well. And she is actually like, no, I want a little bit more than that if you can. I was like, no, good on you, Morgan. You've stood up and said, I actually believe I'm worth this. And we kind of had the budget set up and whatever. I did just take $5,000 out of my budget or whatever I would keep, like the extra $5,000, I think it was, she asked more on top of what we offered her. And I was like, no, genuinely, you're worth that. And I'm prepared to effectively, take that off the profits of the team because I think either she'll bring that money back in turn, in another year, like the sponsors like, oh, can we get on board with you? Whether it's Nike, like, hey, can we chuck 20 grand at the team because that Morgan girl's doing super good for you guys and we want the exposure, whatever it is.
Mm.
I think she brings it back and she brings great value. So I lost $5,000 there, out of my wage, but I don't think it's a lost. I think it's invested and Morgan kills it for us. So it's a tough
Yeah,
one.
it's investing back into the team, which is your asset,
Exactly.
right? And I don't think people realize so. But it sounds like Pivot, and you speak about the salary component of the athletes, and maybe you build a budget, and then I think the team should make profit. You're the manager, then you hire people. Cool. So you've got like an owner component because you're working your tail off. But then you're saying, cool, some years the owner component doesn't do well. It's like reinvesting in a business. You're like,
Exactly.
well, this
Some years you'll
athlete I
do
want to
bad.
keep,
Yeah.
she's going to help the business, which is the team. But one thing I don't know if everyone understands, like I call them third party owned teams. Like Pivot pays you, fine. But if you mess the budget up or go over budget or flights go up or things happen, like you can get screwed with a bill, right? And
Dude, last
is
year,
that
yeah,
not
we
quite
did bad.
stressful?
Yeah, like we get enough that I know I'll break even. But like last year, yeah, we were probably 30 grand over in travel and accommodation. Like I made 30 grand less probably than I should have. Because whatever's left from the team, I get to keep, right? And I have a rough budget. I'm like, right, we want to be here, we want to be here. It doesn't really matter what I budget though, because as long as you don't go to zero, anything that's left's mine. So if you make 10 grand or 100 grand, it doesn't actually matter. Like, oh, I'm more happy if I made 100 grand. But as long as I don't go over budget, it doesn't actually matter. It only matters what profit I make. So yeah, we definitely, I think we were like 30 grand over on travel and accommodation last year, one of them, or both of them. They come out like 30 grand more than I budgeted for, like crazy high. Between diesel going crazy, flights, I think were the main one. I think 1 month we
Yeah,
spent 10
they
grand extra
jumped
on
up
flights.
hectically, huh?
I think for that Canadian trip, we spent £10,000 extra on flights from what we thought they were going to be. £10,000 was just gone like that I never get
Yeah,
to see again.
that's a lot of money when you running a tight ship or having to just any budget. That's horrible.
Dude, yeah, 10 grand and like a bunch here, a bunch there. Yes, yeah, so last year's budget went, but there's enough built in now that I just get less profit. So it's not really stressful. It's a bit annoying, but we make enough now
I
that,
I guess
yeah,
you're also
I
used
just
to
lose
it.
money.
You're used to that. That's the ebbs and flows of owning a team, right? I think
Dude,
I
yeah, I bought the
would lose
bus.
sleep at night thinking about excess baggage and flights because I'm like quite, everything needs to be in a box for me. But you
I
get used
kind
to
of
it, I
do,
guess,
but
right?
yeah, we're pretty freestyle with it, dude. Like the bus last year I had to buy, so that all came out of the budget. I had to use all the money for the bus. We were pretty tight on budget. But then the next 2 years now that the bus is just cruising around, I don't need to buy a bus this year or next year, So this year I'll have plenty of that money coming back in.